like to call to order the May 2022 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Colerain Township. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Welcome, everybody. We've got some procedural instructions if you're new to this. I'll go through those. Basically, appeals will be heard first, and then other business of the board after that, so you can leave after your case is heard. All who speak or testify before the board will be sworn in. This may be done it'll be done as a group. Anyone addressing the board is requested to use the speaker's podium and to give their name and address before they start speaking. The meetings are recorded, and anyone speaking may be cross-examined by an attorney. All documents, photographs, or other evidence presented for each case may be accepted by the board. The chairman will rule whether additional items being offered will be accepted or rejected. The person presenting each case may also withdraw a document. The zoning administrator or staff members will present a brief summary or statement for each appeal or each case tonight. Once the BZA staff presentation is completed, the appellant will have the opportunity to present their case, and then following that presentation, the chairman will ask for anyone in favor or opposed to speak at that time. I don't think we have a large crowd today, so usually we keep presentations to 5 minutes per person. But that probably will not be an issue tonight. Then after that, the board will motion to close the public portion of the hearing, and then individual board members will begin their questions to the appellant, and board members may ask individuals who have testified to return back up to the podium. Following the board's questions, a motion and a second will be made by the members of the board to either approve or approve with conditions or deny the appeal. The decision of the board is effective 30 days from the vote. And finally, respect for the process and one another is paramount. We just ask everyone remain civil, and if you do not remain civil, you would be asked to leave the room. So those are the basic outline procedural instructions for the meeting. Roll call, please.
Mr. Bartol.
Here.
Ms. Owens.
Here.
Mr. Shep.
Here.
Mr. Wilson.
Here.
Mr. Roberto.
Seeing that Mr. Roberto is absent today, we'd like to call our alternate, Mr. Sadao, up to the front. Do you have your microphone on? All right. And the next step would be the swearing in. So for all those speaking tonight, could you please stand and raise your right hand? Or are you doing it?
Yeah, anyone who might want to speak tonight. Do y'all swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank y'all.
He's getting the sign-in sheets. So did everyone sign in that it plans on speaking? All right. Yep. Just put a 6 by their name. All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So the first case tonight is BZA 2022-05. The applicant representing the property owner is requesting a conditional use per 7.4.10. The property is 2550 West Galbraith Road. The applicant and/or owner is Dr. Mike Scruggs. On behalf of its Galbraith Road LLC. Staff, do you have a presentation?
I do, sir. Starting off in the southeastern part of the township, just to Galbraith and Pippin, is the current property. Here's an aerial overview. Just kind of give you an idea of sort of what's around there. Just east of Colerain and just south of Cross County is the area we're talking about here. Currently, the property is zone B1. There's a little bit of what I believe is a mistaken overlap of O1. However, we'll kind of cover that a little bit later as well. Primarily surrounded by R6, a little bit of R7 to the west, B1 as well to the south, and then B1 east and even across the street there as well. This is the parcel in question, 25 West Galbraith Road, 2550 West Galbraith Road, 2.7 acres, a little bit over that. And then some may know it as the former Aldi's before they, or Aldi's, depending, I guess, how you pronounce it, before they moved up north closer to Chick-fil-A there. And it's been vacant ever since they've left. This is just to give an idea of the topography. This will come into play a little bit later. On the northern part of the parcel, there's a very thick depression area there where it's probably a minor tributary creek just south of that residential development there. The current proposal is, everyone should see this, I hope, is to do a place of religious worship, which is a conditional use in a B1. It's also a conditional use in any R district. However, it is a permitted use in an O1 district. The applicable zoning resolutions, the sections here would be Section 8.2, permitted uses, Table 8-1, Section 7.4.10, religious places of worship, and then Section 14.5.2, lot buffers. Currently, it is stated in a B1, religious place of worship is a conditional use, which brings us to the case tonight. However, in that sector where I said there's a slight overlap of the O1, it is a permitted use. Again, I believe that's a mistake. Typically, you want your zoning districts to follow property lines if nearby. It looks like that may have been just, I'll have to dig into it a little bit more, but probably some type of overlap from whenever a shapefile was presented to the engineer, is what I would guess. The Hamilton County engineer, pardon me, from the township, whenever that was done years ago. And then Section 7.4.10 is the criteria for religious places of worship. Really, the only sector in here that's going to come up play is going to be the lot buffer. And then also, this is Table 14-1, the required lot buffer. All it states basically in 7.4.10 is that any conditional use as a place of religious worship shall meet the criteria, the setback for B2. Whenever B2 abuts an R6 district, there's a 40-foot setback. The property already meets that. So just wanted to kind of put it out there that really it would be a compliant use to switch to approve the conditional use. The conditional use review criteria is as such found in Section 4.4.3. Part A, in reviewing conditional uses, the Board of Zoning Appeals shall grant approval only when the use is consistent with the following standards. 1, the use is a conditional use permitted with approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals in the district where the subject lot is located. 2, the use is in accordance with the objectives of the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan and Zoning Resolution. 3, the conditional use will not be substantially and/or permanently injure the appropriate use of the neighboring properties and will serve the public convenience and welfare. And A-4 would be the use will not create excessive requirements at public cost for public facilities and services and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. And then Part B of that same section of 4.4.3, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose such conditions and restrictions upon the conditional use as the Board of Zoning Appeals may deem necessary to comply with the standards set forth in this article, to reduce or minimize the impact of such use upon other property in the neighborhood, and to further the purpose and intent of this resolution. Staff findings are as such. The proposed use is a permitted conditional use in the zoning district in which the property is located, B1. According to table 8-1 for the uses, it is. I'm sorry, 8-1 for table B there. Part 2 is staff's opinion the proposed use is in accordance with the objectives of the Colerain Township Comprehensive Plan and zoning resolution. The conditional use will not substantially and or permanently injure the appropriate use of the neighboring properties and will serve the public convenience and welfare, and services will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Part 4, the use will not create excessive requirements at public costs for public facilities and services and will not be detrimental to the economic welfare of the community. Staff's recommendations for approval of the requested conditional use for the property located at 2550 West Galbraith Road to permit a religious place of worship within a District Zone B1 neighborhood business district. That concludes staff's report on that.
Thank you. Is the appellant here? If so, please come up and state your name and address.
Mike Scruggs, 6807 Jennifer Lynn Drive, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45248.
And my name's Keisha Scruggs, 6807 Jennifer Lynn Drive, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45248.
Okay, so please, you can add anything you want to what's already been stated.
Yeah, I thought it was more of, I don't know if there were any general questions, but as far as our church is concerned, our church is 16 years old. We actually have ties to Colerain already. There was a good portion of that 16 years that we spent in the Colerain area, where we at one time were 5915, which is Colerain Market currently.
Which was the former IGA.
Yeah. So we have an affinity for grocery stores. And so we were in there at one point in time. Mount Airy Elementary, we actually were in Colerain High School for a small period of window of time. We did Bible study at Grosbeck Library, as well as we actually were residents of Colerain Township for about 15 years as well.
Yeah, and as it relates to hindering the community, I mean, we intend to be an asset to the community. We have a lot of community programs that we offer. We like to do like movies in the lot, things like that to help the community. We feed the community, so our programs we feel like would be an asset to the community versus hindering the community at all. We know that we would be an asset to the community and help out a lot and be able to help the people in the neighborhood, which is what we want to do. We want to be able to help the people that are residents in the neighborhood be better.
Okay. Yeah, if that's all you have, we'll ask if there's any other people speaking in favor of this case. And if not, are there any people want to speak against this appeal? I don't see any, so I guess I need a motion to close the public portion of the meeting. So do I have a motion?
A motion to close.
All right, in a second.
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 Roll call vote.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shep?
Aye.
Mr. Siddell?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Bartow?
Yes. All right, so now we'll ask you questions if we have any. So, Ms. Owens?
Are you planning on any renovation, or are you just gonna kind of use it as is, either temporarily, or do you have any long-term?
All the renovations will be interior. So that's once we finish closing, et cetera, then all that stuff will get started. And so we're not sure on the duration yet, only because of time frames on shipping and everything that's kind of happening around the country currently. But most of or actually all of the renovations will take place interior wise.
It's supposed to be within a 12-month period, 6 months to 12 months max. But yeah, it looks nothing like that. It's just a shell. So right now it's a shell, but that's what it intends to look like once the improvements are completed.
And as far as like parking and traffic is concerned, I'm just curious, what's about the average size of your attendance, or your congregation, I should say?
It all depends. Once pre-COVID versus post-COVID, because now we do a lot of online as well as in person. So we go anywhere from 2 to 350 in terms of in person wise.
Thank you. No questions at this time.
All right, thank you. Mr. Shupp?
I have none.
Okay. Mr. Sadell? Mr. Wilson?
I have no questions either.
And I don't think I have any. I mean, what was already asked would have been my same questions. So as far as opening, ribbon cutting day, that's kind of to be determined, I guess?
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
okay.
Hopefully sooner than later, but yeah.
Well, yeah, correct, yeah. All right, I think that, oh, yes.
Can I say a real quick piece? Just to clarify, whether it were voted to be approved or denied, the conditional use would grant me the ability to issue a change of use certificate. Once the 30-day period passed, if they were to vote to approve it tonight, the board, if they were to vote to approve it, there's a 30-day waiting period. At that point, the applicant would apply for change of use. Then any plan submitted at that point would be required to adhere to our code, and if there was something that they needed or wanted a variance from in that, that would be a variance process. So just kind of address your question maybe a little bit, Ms. Owens, would be that all the applications, the zoning resolution would still apply. But this just gives me the ability to even issue them that change of use certificate. And correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Scruggs' wife, I forget your first name, but she's very, very, very informative, and she dressed me up and down in the whole scenario. And are you guys still in the purchase contract
Yes.
part, right? So this sort of,
We're just waiting on the appraisal. We had, it was in the contract. It was our due diligence period was to make sure that we would be able to operate as a church. And so this completes our due diligence period and allows for us to continue with the financing. We're about 30 days out. We did move forward with the financing so that we could still close within 30 to 45 days. So the only thing we're really waiting on right now is appraisal.
Okay, all right,
just
Yeah.
to clarify that in case I,
sure, yeah,
thank
thanks.
you so much.
Do we have a motion?
I do have a question for staff. In regards to signs, has that been addressed, or is that something that's gonna be coming later?
That was included in the application, the proposal, and we can kind of address that. If the change of use is permitted at all, we kind of cross that bridge when we got there if you wanted to, or discuss it tonight.
Okay,
We did submit the signs.
But they-
yes, sir.
okay. That's all I had.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve the requested conditional use to permit a religious place of worship within the zoned B1 neighborhood business district.
I'll second it.
We do the roll call vote now?
Yes, sir.
All right, roll call vote.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Shupp,
Yes.
Mr. Sado,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Bartow.
Yes. So your appeal has been granted, and just work with staff on the next steps. So congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Scruggs. Thank you, Mrs. Dr. Scruggs.
All right, so the next case is BZA 2022-06. Originally, it was withdrawn from our agenda, which we received last week. But as of tonight, the appellant has asked that it be brought back to tonight's agenda.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
So initially, the required paperwork was not turned in by the submittal date. So when the agenda was delivered to the board members, at that point it's postponed. The applicant came in today with that required material. Given that it was legally advertised, I just felt I was not in position to really make that determination necessarily. So if the board would like, you could hear it tonight, you could table it tonight.
Right, so,
Given that you really haven't had the opportunity to review a lot of the material on it, it would be a tough call to go through it, or do it at the end, or table it.
so I guess I'm curious what everyone's feelings are as far as how to proceed, if we would, like, do we need to, like, take an official vote, I guess?
Yeah,
Or a motion? Do we have to do a
Because it
motion?
was, I would say because it was legally advertised, because there's been, you know, the agenda that I delivered to your homes, you know, is stated on there, that me and Mr. Miller, he stepped out, but that we delivered to your homes, it was stated as withdrawn, postponed. Here, it's changed, so just, I keep it as legally in compliance as possible with the ORC. I would suggest having a vote on it.
Correct, right. Any discussion? Any thoughts? And if not, would somebody want to make a motion? We can give everybody a few minutes to digest.
Or if you'd like, we could have the next, you have a lot of options. Being the board has a lot of options. You could make a motion to table now. You can make a motion to discuss it after the 07 case if you want to. You have options.
I know everybody's looking at it. What's the crux
Sure.
of the
So
case?
general overview?
Yeah.
Is that, in August of 2021, the applicant received a change of use certificate, and on there was listed, both on the application and on the change of use certificate, that it was prior a church, zoned R6, so it's priorly a church, and they wanted to move into a restaurant, have a change of use for a restaurant. They received that certificate from our department in August. And then last month in April, I was not over that application in August, clarify that part. In April, our department received an application for a sign permit, seeing that it was based on what my interpretation of the zoning resolution is not approved use. You cannot have a B1 use in an R6 district. A restaurant is not approved in any R6 district. A church was approved as a conditional use in that R6 district back in 2020. It's kind of a mess, but really it's staff's opinion. The whole crux of it is, I'm not even certain that the board has the ability to even rule over it as it stands. That's my side through the whole zoning resolution, as far as I can tell.
Well, I mean, my thoughts would be, need more time to review it, and possibly table it till next month. But obviously, we'll have to vote on it, but,
I'll move to table this.
okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second, roll call vote.
Mr. Shep?
Yes?
Mr. Sadell? Yes. Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Bartel?
Yes. So we will have that on the June docket?
June 29th. June 29th, 2022. We'll be on that docket. There's 3 other cases at the moment for that docket as well, so we'll forward that night. All right.
Is the applicant here for that case? No? Yes? Oh. Oh, okay. So basically, since we haven't received any information to be prepared for tonight, that's why we decided to do what we did. So we would just have to postpone your decision 30 days? And you're...
I'm sorry, I'm hard of hearing.
Oh, well, we made a motion to table the case, and it'll be heard next month.
Why is that?
Because we didn't receive the information with all the other docket materials prior to tonight, so we're not prepared. We need time to review.
All they're asking to do is put their sign up on the building where their business is gonna be. We're not asking to put any new signs up on the street, we're not asking to build anything. I'm the owner of the shopping center, and I bought the shopping center.
Can you state your name and address? Can you state your name and address?
I'm sorry.
State your name and address.
Okay, my name is Gary Davis, and I'm the owner of Spring Hill Shopping Center LLC at 3100 to 3130 Springdale Road. Now, I bought the shopping center 20 years ago, but up until this past November, I was a tenant in that shopping center. My wife and I owned Angelo's Pizza for 42 years. I initially leased from Henry Allenstein Jr. And after we purchased the place, a number of times when I had a new tenant come in, I always sent them to the township to get the necessary permits and so forth to do their signs, and if they were going to do any changes inside the room, to get permits to do that. Now, recently, in the past 18 months, I've had 3 different tenants, prospective tenants, come back to me and tell me that they were denied a sign permit. And I queried them to say, are you asking for a sign on the street or just to put it up on your sign on the building? And they said, we told them it's just on the building. I said, well, this doesn't make any sense. But I understand that things change. And the last time I applied for zoning variance was when I first bought the shopping center. We did an addition on the building. And we had to file for a zoning variance because anybody within like 1,500 feet of the place had to okay it. And I was aware of that. But I never had to get a zoning variance to put a sign up. One of the prospective tenants told me that they told them that since it was residential non-conforming, that they had no reasonable expectations to be able to put a sign up. And that didn't make any sense to me, because I think anybody in this room that's going to open a business wants to put their sign up so that the customers know where they're at. And I can't understand the red tape that we're going through here just to be able to put boba tea up above boba tea. Doesn't make any sense.
So based on what you tried to explain to us what the case is it just a sign case?
I believe it's more than that overall. What initiated with staff, current staff, was the application for a sign permit last month. There have been multiple variances on this property from 05, 06. There's conditional use done in 2020, and probably even more in between there. It's a commercial use space that's zoned R6. It's very,
Well, in your agenda, it says it's requesting an expansion of a non-conforming use.
Yeah, I saw that on the thing. I'm not, we're not requesting an expansion of anything.
two things. Number one, this has been tabled, so there's really not a whole lot to even do. The board already voted to table it. It's really, at this point, it's technically that issue.
When is
Out
the
of
next when's the
courtesy,
next meeting going to be that's going to cover it?
it'll be June 29th, next month's meeting.
June 29th?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as far as our resolution is concerned, and I understand sometimes common sense and the resolution aren't always best friends, it is, as far as my interpretation goes, it is an expansion. I've communicated that to the applicant.
How can it be an expansion when for 60
Sir,
years?
I'm going to tell you, going from a church use as listed on the application that our department received in August of 2021. So last year in August, the applicant said it was a church. Prior to their use, they want to do a restaurant. Now, at no, that's what's on the application. Sir, all I can do is go by the evidence I have. That's on the
Looking
application.
at a different application, those people
No,
are not.
no, I'm not, okay. I am not looking at a different application. If you'd like to talk about it more at some point during normal business hours, you can, or at the hearing. But I have nothing else to say at this point.
These are the tenants.
I understand.
They're not a church.
I'm not saying they are, sir.
So on,
At this point in time, it's been tabled, so let's
Yeah,
move on to
let's-
the next case.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. We'll see you next month.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right. So then the third and last case of the night is BZA 2022-07. The applicant, representing the property owner, is requesting variances to Articles 8, 10, 11, 14, and 15. I'm not sure if it's that many.
I generally put more on there just in case.
Okay. The property address is 8265, and then in parentheses, 8261 Colerain Avenue. And the applicant/owner is Jelani Jackson, representing New Horizon Properties LLC. So staff, do you have a presentation?
I do, sir, and then if I could, from the time when the application was received until the hearing now, the property owners did change. I believe it's now listed as It's Richie's Enterprises LLC, or I'm sorry, Richie's S Enterprises LLC, pardon me. The It's was from 05, I apologize. As stated, BZA case 2022-07, we're looking at a few variances here, specifically to Article 8, 13, and 14. The location, overall, it's listed as 8265 by Hamilton County. However, when you zoom in, as we'll see later, it pops up as 8261 for the actual structure itself. Again, I just try and list both to cover ourselves legally as much as possible. Again, applicant being Mr. Jelani Jackson, and the owner has changed from the time the legal advertisement went out. However, I believe that makes no effect on our end, as you know, it's all public information at this point. The current owner is Ritchie S. Enterprises, LLC. In the southern quarter, what our zoning, comprehensive zoning plan is listed as the southern quarter of Colerain Avenue, just south of Ronald Reagan here. We'll see on Colerain Avenue. If anyone's visited the establishment, they'll know it quite well. Current zoning, it's currently zone B2, as dense residential R7 to the west, B2 across Colerain Avenue to the east there, R7 beyond that. Basically, just it's a general business district area. This is the parcel itself in question. Again, as I said, it's listed here as you zoom in on cages. The structure itself, 8261 Colerain Avenue, just under a quarter acre. And this is just an overview based on, again, all this is provided by Cages. Just two stars to kind of show the area we're talking about expanding that was proposed. This is a layout of topography, very flat lot for the most part, not much elevation relief. Just south of the property line there, on the southern edge, right in here, there is a little bit of a dip that doesn't really get shown on this too well, just to give an idea of the layout. The plans that were provided to the staff, to all the BZA members, indicate the expansion will be just a little bit on the northern edge of the building and then a little bit on the eastern edge towards Colerain Avenue. This just covers the plan of the expansion to show the areas where they're like to bump out. The applicant will cover the reasoning for that. Going through. So the applicable zoning resolution for this case, Section 8.31, Table 8-2, Business Site Development Standards, Section 13.21B, request a variance for that, where that states an alteration, addition, or change of use of an existing building that would expand the square footage of a use would require more parking based on the requirements of this article. Basically, they're already a very constrained parking area as it is, and as it exists, it's a non-conforming lot. So this is just sort of a variance to that aspect that already applies to the structure as it's and use as it stands right now. And then Section 14.2.2, for expansion of structures, the landscaping and buffering requirements shall apply to any new or expanded parking or vehicular use areas. Again, requesting a variance to that section as well. Table 8.3, site development standards indicates that any lot in the B2 district must be 1 acre at just under a quarter. It was already the non-conforming lot just on area alone. Lot width 75 feet, front yard setback at 50 feet, and lot structure being 25%, and lot impervious coverage being 75% max. Again, 25%, I don't believe that they're quite there yet, and I don't believe they can get to it with this, but if it were to apply, request a variance to section table, to table 8-2, given that as it stands, the lot is already a non-conforming lot. So we're just asking for a variance to what's basically already would require a variance, and now they're doing an addition to that. And then again, for the off-street parking and loading, a variance to that, where the applicability of the zoning resolution, anytime you expand any use or increase the structure, the zoning resolution requires you to meet the minimum parking standards. As it stands now, the use, the structure, the business doesn't even meet the required elements now, so not really necessarily making it much worse or different in that aspect, in staff's opinion. And then Article 14, the landscaping and buffering, there's almost no landscaping or buffering at all. No buffering is required in a B2 district, but there's no streetscape, landscaping, anything like that for the most part, so be asking for a variance to that as well. Variance review criteria is covered in Section 4.4.2. The following criteria shall be used to review all applications for variances. A, the board shall not be authorized to grant a variance for use that is otherwise prohibited in the zoning district in which the property is located. The board may authorize a variance when such variance would not be contrary to the public interest, where owing to special conditions, a literal enforcement of the resolution will result in unnecessary hardship, and so that the spirit of the resolution shall be observed and substantial justice done. Part C, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose such conditions and restrictions upon the property benefited by variance as the Board of Zoning Appeals may deem necessary to comply with the standards set forth in this section, to reduce or minimize the impact of such variance upon other property in the neighborhood, and to further the purpose and intent of this resolution. Two more. Part D, no granting of a variance shall be authorized unless the Board of Zoning Appeals finds that such variance from the provisions or requirements of this resolution will not be contrary to the public interest, and owing to special conditions pertaining to a specific piece of property, the literal enforcement of the provisions or requirements of this resolution would cause unnecessary hardship. The Board of Zoning Appeals may attach thereto such conditions regarding the location, character, and other features of the proposed structure or use as it may deem necessary in the interest of the furtherance of the purposes of the resolution and in the public interest. And last part, E, no variance shall be considered or granted by the Board of Zoning Appeals which would allow a change in use of a parcel, building, or structure where such change of use could be accomplished by redistricting of the subject property. Staff findings, the current use is a permitted use in the zoning district in which the property is located, B2. Restaurant use is permitted there. It's staff's opinion that the granting of the requested variance or variances would not be contrary to the public interest. The conditions recommended below, again, staff's opinion on that. Part D, given the landlocked nature of the parcel in question, a literal enforcement of the provisions or requirements of this resolution would cause unnecessary hardship. And section E is not applicable because as a restaurant is permitted in B2 general district area. Staff recommends the approval of the requested variances from sections 8.3, section 13.2.1, and section 14.2.2 with the following conditions. The variances shall be applicable to the proposed expansion as presented by the applicant in case BZA 2022-07 to the Colerain Township Board of Zoning Appeals, pardon me for forgetting the zoning. Part 2, the variances shall terminate upon the Hamilton County Building Department issuing a certificate of occupancy and/or providing the current applicant owners with a pass upon their final inspection related to the permit for the expansion proposed in this application. And basically, it's the intent of these conditions to permit the current proposed plan that the applicant to perform the expansion of the existing structure as proposed in case BZA, pardon me for that, 2022, that should read -07, and to terminate upon the completion of that expansion within the time frame permitted by section 4.2.5, which is the time frame you're allowed to complete your zoning certificate. The intent of these conditions is to not allow a subsequent applicant or owner or subsequent application from the current applicant or owner any variance from the sections of Colerain Township zoning resolution listed above in perpetuity. Basically, you get a variance for this one case scenario for this time. Once that's completed as proposed, that variance terminates. Just so down the road, someone can come in and say, I already have a variance to these sections. They don't apply, so they just can't build out in perpetuity. That's the intent of that, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. That concludes staff's report.
Any questions for staff? No questions?
I have a question.
Yep.
So if we permit the variance during this time frame and then it ceases after the expansion is completed, would then the lot be non-compliant?
Nope, the variances would apply to what was proposed here, or something
I
very,
see,
very
okay.
close to it.
I see.
It is technically, it is a non-conforming lot at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Giving the variance to these sections allows the expansion, but then ceasing it once that's completed, they receive their certificate of occupancy, it stays a non-conforming lot. Any additional expansion would still have to come back for a variance. These sections wouldn't be, there wouldn't be a variance from these sections forever, completely going forward. That was the intent of trying to word it like that. Does that answer your
Yeah,
question?
absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. President. If you didn't water, Ms. Owens, we have an extra water here, just so you know, if you do.
Are you good? All right. No other questions? All right, is the applicant here? Please come up. State your name and address and anything you'd like to tell us about the project.
Jelani Jackson, address 4020 Beechwood Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45229.
Danielle Jackson, 4020 Beechwood Avenue, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45229.
We've been, over the past 2 years, really working on how to take the brand to the next level, and we came up with a daughter brand, which is called Richie's Chicken and Soul, and we spent, working with consultants and architects to really reimagine the Richie's experience and elevate it in terms of hospitality, culinary-wise, and just really a gift for our customers and how do we, best serve them. And this is what we came up with, and we're really super excited to present that in the Colerain community because it's going to be the first iteration of it anywhere. And so it's really like we came up with a prototype, and this is going to be the manifestation of that. And we really sought something that could be expandable in the future if we ever grow into a national brand or even a super regional brand. So we're really excited to
When we grow.
yeah, when we grow. So we're really excited to have that to be in Colerain and start here to a community that's really given us so much.
That's all?
So
Okay.
that's all.
All right, well, you can stay there, but this will be short. Any other people in the audience speaking in favor of the variances? Don't see any. Anybody speaking against the variance? Don't see any. So we will close the public portion of the presentation. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second?
I second the motion.
Roll call vote.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shep?
Yes.
Mr. Sado?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Bartow?
Yes. All right, so now we'll open it up to questions from the board. Mr. Sado, do you have anything?
Not at this time.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilson?
I have no questions.
Mr. Shep? And Ms. Owens?
None.
I was just curious. Is this, so right, there are other Richies in town, right?
Yeah, I could let my wife explain.
I am the daughter. My dad started the company in 1986. I've been in the business since I was 5, filling hot sauce cups by 8, running a register. But we got into the business in
2015.
2015. The plan is to hopefully revamp all of them into the daughter brand.
Oh,
At some point, but
some
it
point.
is separate ownership,
It's
so
separate.
oh,
we have this Colerain property, and we actually have another one out.
In Fairfield that we just
Fairfield.
purchased.
And so this property will be under the new brand and prototype, and then the next one in Fairfield. But the other 3 are not under ownership. We hope at some point it does, but we
right,
don't have any
okay.
more family dynamics there.
And I was just curious, like, during construction, are you going to remain open?
We hope so. It'll be determined by kind of like the permitting and our contractors if we're able to do it.
Oh, okay,
That would be the hope, but it'll if we're not able to, then
right. I just know the chicken-loving community would be disappointed if you weren't.
That's what we're gonna try to, because, I'm not willing to lose my employees. I love my employees.
Right,
Have to close for 2 weeks, then, we'll pay them for the 2 weeks.
Mm.
But I'm not willing to lose them to anybody else on Colerain. Just being honest.
yeah, sure, all right. Well, thank you. You can have a seat. Where are we? We need a motion. Do we have a motion for or against?
I'll have a motion to approve it with the staff recommendation.
Any second?
Second.
So roll call vote.
Mr. Sado?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shep?
Yes.
Mr. Bartow?
Yes. So the variances have been approved, and congratulations and good luck.
I'll reach out and contact you guys. We have a 30-day waiting period. At that point, then you'll be able to apply for your certificate for your alteration in addition, just so you know. Thanks so much, guys.
All right. Do we have any unfinished business?
No, sir?
No? So then we need to have an approval of the minutes from February 23rd, 2022.
Yes, sir. Let me catch up to you. Sorry.
Okay.
There we go. Yes, sir. That's correct. And then on your table there, list is number 4. Ms. Owens was kind enough to point out to where there were a few times on her last name, I dropped the yes in Owens. So that's a modified version of what you received in there. I apologize for that typo.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Owens?
Yes.
Mr. Shep?
Yes.
Mr. Sado?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Bartow?
Yes. And after that, I see we will have a meeting in June, correct?
Yes. And definitely after tonight with the table. Like whenever. Well, yep. Currently, there are, prior to BZA 2022-06, there were 3 applications that we have at the moment, all very complete applications, which wasn't the case last time. So, yes, we will.
So we're definitely here next month?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else on your end, staff?
Yes, sir. Just for administrative matters, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Shep, and Ms. Owens have been kind enough to reach out to say that they would like to do the APA Ohio offers a citizen planner training course. It's an online course. I was waiting for them. On their website, they kept saying they were going to release the 2022 version, and it never. I was waiting, so I called them to see what was going on. I emailed them and got a reply to that saying they're just basically running the 2021. So if anyone took the 2020 or 2021, it'd probably be similar. But if you haven't taken any, be highly recommended. If any of the board members would like to be a part of that, I said those 3 have already indicated their desire to be to attend that. Again, I think it's online. I think it's all going to be a virtual attendance, as far as I can tell, which is kind of nice. You can just do it at your own leisure if you're interested in it. If you've been through it before, be a refresher. But just want to reiterate that's on the table if you would like it. Just shoot me an email, let me know, or let me know now. But that's all I have.
All right, thank you. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Anybody?
So move.
I make a motion.
A second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Owens,
Yes.
Mr. Shep,
Yes.
Mr. Sado,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Bartow.
Yes, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you very much.